what we were trying to do is to, first of all, experience together certain kind of experiences. We are Italians, me and Roberto, my co-founders, and are both from Napoli, so you spelled it right. It's
Thank you.
Napoli. Um, and yeah, so we wanted to share with the people that we met while we were traveling a lot around the world because of our studies, because of our jobs, and so on, what you can actually experience in our hometown, in our region, which is Campania,
Hmm.
okay, but not in a chaotic way, like because when we were traveling and when we realized that living in a city or in a crowded
Mm,
place, in a noisy place, it's a little bit unsustainable for our bodies, okay? Even if you are working physically and going every day 9 to 5 to an office, that's something that for our bodies is good
mhm.
because you have a routine for sure. But and it's also good because you have a co-working space inside
Yeah.
an office. We don't realize it, but we have a co-working space inside an office. But on another level, it's also something that more and more people want to escape from because
Mm,
probably the environment is toxic and so on. So if you have the luck or the chances or the will to switch to a remote working environment, which means work from home or work from
yeah.
anywhere, okay, you can detach from the city. You can escape that kind of environment because if you spend 40 minutes every day, every morning into traffic jams and you want to escape that stress and you happen to work remotely, then you can actually avoid that. And you start first working from home.
Mm,
And then you start thinking, okay, but if I'm working from home and I live in Milan or I live in New York cities when I spend
yeah.
a lot of money, okay, living there, why would I remain being here if I spend 23 days of my life every year traveling, okay, the world, or being on a mountain hiking? So
Yeah.
this was actually the main reason why we tried to put together people without quarters to create this kind of community of people that want to have this, let's say, work-life balance, and then we can talk
Mm.
a little bit more about the concept of work-life balance to
Oh
create
yeah.
out quarters because
Hmm.
it's basically something, a movement that
Hmm.
teaches you or encourages you to experience another way of living.
Yeah. And when you talk about living in a big city like Milano, was that your case? Was that your experience that you were in a big city and then the pandemic hit and you had to work from home and you were like, why am I here?
Okay, so to just give you a hint
Yes.
on my life before like moving again to Napoli,
Mm.
uh, the 4 years before, I'm talking about 2018 before. Okay, so even before the pandemic, I
Hmm.
was in Urbino. Urbino is a small town in the center of Italy. When
Hmm.
I moved there back in 2016, I was
Hmm.
like, okay, this is not like Napoli. I'm sure I'm gonna be depressed here. You know, there is fog every day. There is, not so many people.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, I learned the good and the wellness that waking
Mm.
up and hearing the birds gives to your body. And working, yes, in fog, but in a clean air gives to your body.
Mm.
So that 20 minutes walk to go to the university, okay, was really
Hmm.
helpful for me. And
Mm.
every time that I came back to Napoli, I was like, how could I live in this kind of environment with
They were
this
crazy.
pollution
What
every
was
day?
doing? Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
to give you an idea, in Napoli, for example, you have these little shops that are literally on the sidewalk with people eating pizzas, and at 50 centimeters from them, there are the cars that are in
Yeah.
traffic jams. So imagine what you're eating there.
Yeah.
You see
So
what I
full of
mean?
pollution. Oh
Exactly.
yeah, I know.
Exactly. So, again, if your will is to go away from such kind of environment, because you can, because you actually can,
Hmm.
because I can also understand why a lot of people maintain certain kind of jobs because they, learned different things because they cannot actually move from there where
Yeah.
they are, even if the job is somehow transformable into a digital thing, into a remote
Hmm.
work environment. So you can actually move from where you are and live a different kind of lifestyle.
Yeah.
Which, if you think about that, when we become 60 years old or 70 years old, then you have the luck. Because in Italy now, if I want to think about retirement, now the expectations are at 70 years old when I can
Yeah.
barely walk. Okay. So if I want to wait for the retirement,
Mm.
what do I do? I go back to the countryside. I go back to that
Mm.
easy life, to that, eating the potatoes that I have in my backyard.
Yeah.
So that's what I do. That's the expectation that I have
Hmm.
for my last years of my life, and that's what's actually changing for me. I think that
Hmm.
if I'm finding out that I can work remotely, so I have plenty of choice to work remotely from, and I can enjoy my lifetime in a different way.
Yeah. And you were saying so in 2016 you moved to a small town, and that's where you discovered that you didn't need all the busy bees, and you were fine in a more calm and a more fresher, more cleaner air. So that
Exactly.
was 2016. What happened after? Did you go back to the big city for work? Did you have to? Or did you try to get work from a smaller town? How was it?
So when I was there in Urbino, before even
Mm.
graduating, I got a job into a marketing agency. And I was
Hmm.
already working in a hybrid model there, even before the pandemic. I was going there 2 days per
When
week,
was that? 2016 still?
2016,
Yeah,
2017. Okay.
2017. Yeah.
So I was going 2 days there, working
Hmm.
at the office, and the rest working from home because I was also
Yes.
having, university studies. So I asked them, "Can I do this?" And they say, "Of course. You're young. You have to graduate yourself. We have plenty of, people going to the same university because the young people there were the people going at the university."
Hmm.
And I was already experiencing this hybrid model, working remotely,
Hmm.
even if they were words that were not used that much inside our Italian vocabulary or, all around
Hmm.
the world like it is now with this
Was that
revolution
really
of work.
rare to work in a hybrid way in
For sure,
2016 in
for
Italy?
sure,
Okay.
for sure, for sure.
So it was
Right
very
now,
special, actually.
exactly, exactly. It was a really
Hmm.
dynamic and good environment, I might say. So I was already experiencing it without even
Hmm.
realizing. And when it came to 2018, that I graduated and that I didn't want, that I gained so much experience that I could actually,
Yeah.
for different reasons, move to do this freelancing, like digital strategy,
Mm,
marketing, and so on. I said,
yeah.
okay, you know what? I can do this also in another city or also in another environment if I wanted. So that's what
Yeah.
I did. I quit the job and then I
Oh.
moved freelance. I was brave enough, and then I moved back to Napoli.
Ah,
Moving back to Napoli was like,
no, maybe it's
okay,
good. I don't know.
okay. So because my personality was a little bit like, okay, I want to go back to this city environment, and have this
Hmm.
nightlife and meeting my old friends and so on.
Yeah.
Turned out that I didn't like that kind of lifestyle anymore. So I didn't like the chaos. I didn't like the traffic jams. I didn't like trains that are late in my hometown. I didn't like people screaming all around. I didn't like motorbikes passing my car and just doing beep 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 like this. I didn't like this.
Motorbikes in the morning, the worst.
Exactly. So that's why I connected with Roberto. That
Hmm.
was in the same situation like me. He was coming back from
Mm,
Stockholm after 5 years. Okay, and after several years of traveling and working remotely from different parts of the world, like Poland,
And
Portugal,
at
and
that
so on.
time, it's 2018, right? So it's before the pandemic, before the world got to know what remote
Exactly.
work
I'm talking
was.
about
Hmm.
2018 and 2019. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I started traveling and working remotely. Okay.
Hmm.
Again, without even realizing I was a digital nomad or a remote worker. Okay. Because
Yeah.
I found out, okay, I can do this from this place. But
Hmm.
if the internet connection is what I need, I can do it from another place in the world.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. I started doing that in Portugal, in Poland, in other parts of Europe. Okay.
Yeah.
And then COVID came. And then after that, we had this word that we use improperly in Italy, which is called smart working, which, by the way, is work from home. And so, yeah, a lot of people started doing what I was doing. So
Hmm.
COVID on a psychological level and on a working productivity level didn't impact me that much because I was already used into freelancing and I'm
Hmm.
an organized person. And I actually that was the time when my clients asked me, okay, Ivano, now is the time that we do things together. And actually more and more work came during pandemic to
Hmm.
me than it was before and than it is now because people were focused in front of the PCs. And then
Yeah.
yeah, that's what happened. So in 2021 and 2022 I went back to travel again, work remotely, and that's when I found out, okay, I'm a digital nomad because there is more and more people doing this. Okay, I
Yeah.
align with this community of digital
Hmm.
nomads. And then, okay, where are these communities? They are into co-working spaces, as you beautifully do in your podcast, and
Yes.
also in co-living spaces,
Hmm.
because that's where a lot of people are. So yeah, I found out these two trends. My first one was last year. I went to Madeira, to Ponta do Sol,
Yeah.
where I met so many cool people. And that's where I realized,
Wait,
okay,
wait, wait. When did you go to Madeira?
last year in November
November
2022.
2022. Let me think. I was there in November 2021. Ah,
Well,
Fiverr.
just 1 year of difference, but yeah. And yeah, I went there because I was curious about the island, because I never went, and because I wanted to escape a little bit and try on myself this thing of doing a full time in shorts. It was
Hmm.
amazing to have, for the first time in my life, a swim into the sea in November. I never did that.
Hmm.
So I was cool. And then I realized, okay, this is cool life. And I cannot stress it too much. I feel really grateful and
Yeah.
lucky to enjoy this kind of lifestyle, working
Hmm.
remotely and deciding and having the freedom to decide and having the privilege to decide whenever I want to go, whoever I want to be with, and whatever I want to work on. This is really, really cool, and it's not that common right now to have in a lot of countries in the world.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's when I found out about co-living. I experienced it, and I said,
Yeah.
"Wow, this is so cool!" And of course, my entrepreneurial mind told me, "Why this thing doesn't exist that much in Italy?" And at that
Hmm.
time, I started to make my research. Some people already were doing it and are actually
Hmm.
the pioneers
Yeah.
of this movement. We have different ones in Sicily, in Puglia, in
Yeah.
also in Tuscany, in Sardinia, and so on. And then I said, okay, in my region there is none. That's how I connected to Roberto, and I said, "Look,
Yes.
I experienced this. He wanted to do the same thing. We together talked to each other, and then
So
we
you kept contact even after meeting
exactly
and. Hmm.
last year in December we met each other in Napoli, and from there we both applied to a fund and we got grants." And that's how we basically started this venture that is called Outwaters.
Wow, two big jumps, and one when you graduate university and you become a freelancer instead of just being an employee like everybody else. How crazy can you be, you know? And second leap about being not a freelancer but an entrepreneur then. But by that time, you had so many years of experience into hybrid remote work, and then started putting the word on it, and started to know about the big trends of co-working and co-living, and then you're like, it's my turn now. Huh?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Wow.
But it's because of
Uh,
my entrepreneurial mind. Because at the end of the day, if I wanted to do
mhm.
that without, putting in so much effort and building a startup, I would
Mhm.
have been like, okay, let's organize a simple meetup in my hometown, and then let's see how it goes. But
Yeah.
I don't want to be an employee, and I want to be an entrepreneur. So it made sense to me to do this thing
Yeah.
with Roberto, and yeah, and
Mhm.
especially in my region, like at 1 hour and 20 minutes from here, there is this cool place that is called Cilento, which is a UNESCO site, a protected area, the biggest one in
Mm.
Italy, where you can have sea that you can find also in Thailand, good food that you can also have in Portugal, and yeah, like the work-life balance that you can have in a small town, and in any kind
Mhm.
of a little borgo that you can have in Italy. So we ran the
Mhm.
first experience that was called.
Yeah. So you re-met with Roberto December 2022,
Mhm.
correct?
Yes,
And you started planning this whole thing, and the first experience was not too long ago.
exactly. It was from the 23rd. It was up to from the 9th to the 23rd of October.
Mhm.
We lived together and worked together with people coming from Colombia, New York, Albania, Tuscany, and other parts of the world, where we basically did what we wanted to share with them. Our dream became
Yes.
a reality, and it became a reality exactly on a Saturday night when we were dancing, singing, and just enjoying our lifetime
Yeah.
and prioritizing ourselves in a little small town in Italy with local people. That's
Okay.
where that's when we realize, okay, we can actually live differently from what we can get in Napoli when we are all screaming into traffic jams, or in New York cities when we are smelling a lot of bad smells.
Mhm.
And the funny thing is that all of us
Mm.
worked less, and
Yes.
our clients and our fellow colleagues didn't realize that we were working
Ooh,
less.
higher productivity. Yeah.
Yes,
That's
exactly.
one of the big thing about remote work is that research has shown you have higher priority. But one of the big arguments for employees to get more remote work is, oh, I work longer hours. But I'm like, if you have higher productivity, uh, you don't need to work more hours. You do more in less.
Exactly.
Mm.
And we had, for example, one lady that is called Kimberly. She came
Hmm.
there and said, "Look, guys, I'm completely burnt out. I'm here to
Oh,
decompress and to, live a different life."
yeah.
Fanny, after 2 weeks, her face was transformed. Because when you live in such an environment, when you wake
What's
up
the
and the
sun?
only thing, yeah, was the sun, first of all. Second of all is the Mediterranean diet. And you don't even
Mm,
have, to do this thing of connected with local people and so on. But just to the fact that when you wake up in the morning and the only sound that you hear is the birds and the
mm,
bell of the church, you are in a totally different mood.
yeah.
And sometimes in our lifetime, I'm not saying, okay, let's all move to the countryside or to small towns, but I'm saying sometimes in our year, there should be some time when we treat ourselves,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, one of the two things that interest me here is that you've been talking a lot about work-life balance. I heard once that there is no such thing. It's all life balance because work is part of life. What would be your take on this?
Okay. First of all, if you're already researching or seeing any kind of video on YouTube about work-life balance, you're already in the mood that you're not prioritizing one of both.
Mm,
Like if you're a mom or a just born child, you're prioritizing
Yes.
life over work. If you are like
Mm-hmm.
in burnout, you are prioritizing work over life. So there is already an imbalance, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And in my opinion, there is not such a thing of work-life balance, because nowadays in this era, what we have to do is to accept the abundance in life and accept the fact that we sometimes have to work more, sometimes have to work less. The only thing that I would suggest, as
Mm-hmm.
any kind of coach or therapist would give us, is to prioritize ourselves first and put the
Mm-hmm.
life in this work-life balance, expression. Let's do life-work balance, not work-life balance. Because when we
Mm.
start prioritizing ourselves, we are happier. And if we are happier, like we experienced in our experience in October, we are
Yes.
more productive. That's the
Mm-hmm.
thing. And why is there, like, in my opinion, why is there the human resource department? Because everybody of us want different thing at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
and those are the people that are responsible to keep ourselves happy. And that's when the struggle happen if you are a freelancer. Funny, I cannot hide you that before and during the pandemic, I was more productive than ever. But
Mm.
chances were that after that period of time, when I was working from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., I was destroying myself. So I needed to put limits on myself. And I said, okay, this is not the life that I want for myself, because I don't want to spend, I'm 30 years old now. And if I did this from 26 to 30 years old, and I look back, I
Yeah.
ask myself, who is going to give me back that time? Nobody. So yeah,
Mm.
it's good to be in this startup world, entrepreneurship world, and so on. But please, let's also enjoy our lifetime sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And the second thing that intrigued me was you were talking about the local life, the local people, the local community. It's complicated to bring digital nomads, remote workers from all over Italy and all over the world into a small villages with their own traditions, you know? It's two different words, aren't they?
Yes, totally. And imagine
Mm.
the place where we started, Cilento. I highly recommend to the listeners to search about this. Is Cilento.
We'll add
Um,
the link in the comment.
yes, yes. And the thing is there, that area gets
Hmm.
crowded for just 3 months per year in the high
Yeah,
touristing
I bet
season
so.
in
Yeah,
summer. So for such a cool place, good weather, 300 days of sun per year, and so on, it's a pity, that in the low season it gets
yeah,
depopulated, and it's actually a problem that there is there. So for such a big area, it has a coastline of 200 kilometers. If you want to drive from north to south, you take up to 3 hours and a half to do it. So it's like a small country, and that
yeah.
area gets depopulated and there is nobody during winter. Why? Because, of course, people do not realize that if they want,
Mm,
they can organize themselves. Yes, you can go to Milano, you can work there into a marketing agency and so on, but you can become a freelancer or work remotely, and you can ask your boss to,
yeah.
be a remote worker. I have many friends that are there now and that work remotely and go, for example, just one day per month to the office that is in Napoli or Milano, Salerno. Okay. To
Hmm.
answer your question, yes, it is really, really difficult because we are talking about Italy. We are talking about two
Mm.
other words. Campania. Have you heard about
Uh-huh.
Campania before? Probably not. It's a region of Italy. Have you heard about Cilento before? No, probably not. It's like an area in Italy.
Cilantro, yeah, but has nothing to do with it.
And have you heard about Agropoli, which was the town we were running the experiencing in? No. So we pivoted that a lot, and positioning ourselves in the digital nomad community is really, really difficult because, yes, you have the seaside, you have the mountains, you have the hiking, you have the zip line, you also have survival courses in the mountains, you have surf, you have kitesurf, you have everything that you can have in any other region of the world. Literally, I'm not joking. But the thing is that
Yeah,
we are not Bali, we are not Lisbon.
yeah.
Okay, we are a different town. So what
Mhm.
are you selling is not the place itself, the location itself, but actually what you can get out of it.
Yeah.
So it's the slow living experience, the small town, the
Mhm.
Italian brand lifestyle made in Italy. Yes, but after that, what we are really trying to tell to people is that we are trying to gather pioneers of an international community
Mhm.
there in Agropoli and Cilento, because we can actually scale up in such a big area. We don't want to
Mhm.
create a new bubble, because that's what you usually get in a lot of digital nomads hotspots. It's bubbles. It's not like that old school trip where you go and you just stay with Italians or, people. We want people to interact.
Yeah.
Was really cool. We actually had another girl that came. She
Mhm.
came because she was also American. She came because she had relatives living in the town that we were running the
Ooh.
experience. So imagine how cool it was. And she told us, I'm here because you provided me the infrastructure to work remotely from.
Mm.
So that's why I totally believe that that was validation for me of this
Yeah.
revolution of work, because
Yeah.
that told me, okay, we actually provided this lady the proper condition to work remotely and to meet her relatives. That's something that you
Mm.
cannot get, because in Agropoli we don't even have fiber optics in certain areas. We are still with 5 6K or ADSL. Imagine how remote that area is, and we are talking about Italy, European Union,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
imagine that. But
I
yeah,
can. Yeah. Um, Sadly, we're coming to the end. So there's one last thing I want to ask before ending this,
yeah,
and it's your second experience because you're planning to do it a second time, right?
yes, we are doing it next spring. Dates are still not out,
Oh.
but please follow us on outquarters.com or just reach out to me and follow me on LinkedIn, because I'm gonna announce it really, really soon.
And do you plan to do anything differently for this second experience compared to the first one, or do you want to just redo it one more time because it was so amazing?
So, Fanny, to show you an idea that I
Mm.
have,
Mhm.
and I'm really not afraid to share this with the world, is I see a co-living a really good container of, social dynamics among nomads and remote workers. But I also see the co-living for a specific kind of content, like for those that are passionate about photography, for those that are
Mhm.
passionate about hiking, for those that are passionate about riding,
Yeah.
these kind of things. But I also see a
Mhm.
co-living worth it for people that are not into digital marketing or digital things in general.
Mm.
Why not have a co-living for people passionate about motorbikes, for example? I can
Mhm.
imagine such a experience for 1 week, also in the Alps of
Mhm.
Italy, for example, of motorbikers living together in a big structure and going around with their motorbikes instead of going just for 1 day there and doing that thing of
Mhm.
going there and going back home. That would be
Yeah.
totally amazing, in my opinion. So that's where I
Okay. So
see
that.
this evolving, and that's what I will
Yes.
try with Roberto to build in the next experiences as well.
Oh. Nice, nice. Yeah, I can today see it. I can today see it, and there's so much opportunity about many different type of community
Yes,
building.
yes.
Hmm. So one last thing for you is,
Mhm.
was there anything else you wanted to talk about and we didn't have the time to tackle yet? One last thing.
Okay, one last thing. I think that I agree with many, 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 many companies that are
Hmm.
now bringing their employees back to the offices for one reason.
Hmm.
I'm not saying that I disagree with this thing of remote work, but it's also true that we were not ready for remote work, and we need a lot of education
Hmm.
for this kind of mindset, for this discipline, because it requires a lot of discipline. Like, I met so many digital nomads during these years, and I've seen a lot of them struggling of maintaining high productivity levels, because they were into these
Yeah.
really fairy tale environment of traveling the world and working together. And yeah,
Hmm.
I think that we were not ready for that. And those that are ready and can actually embrace this lifestyle require flexibility, adaptability, and really, really high discipline. So this is not for everybody. And I've also seen this among our participants that we had. And I
Yeah.
also was the one, hey, what are you doing at working at this 1 a.m. in the morning? Please stop. you know?
Well, it's true that for a lot of people, March 2020 was free fall into remote working, and they didn't know what was the best practice. They didn't choose it; it was forced. They weren't prepared for it. They didn't have the infrastructure, nothing. So it's not the best condition, to do your best and to be in the best condition to do what you're meant to do. So it's go back to your purpose, going slow
Exactly. I
with
really,
remote working too.
yeah, in my vision, having not an hybrid model of going, back and forth, but if companies also give the chance to gradually move into remote work, like Zapier did, for example, it would be a really, really great thing. Which could also be, okay, let's organize a 2 weeks workation for our international remote work people, and on the other hand for
Yeah,
people that are staying inside our offices to meet together, I don't know, somewhere else in
yeah,
the world that work from there, so they experience this kind of lifestyle.
yeah, yeah. A
If
little
I care
bit, a
about
little bit.
the if I prioritize the happiness of employees, because that's the thing, if you prioritize the
Hmm.
happiness, because happiness doesn't always mean I work remotely, because I met also people doing
Yeah.
holidays and say, hey, I love going to the office, I love that social environment. Okay, so it's totally fine for me.
Hmm. Well, before leaving, there's just a few comments that we got from LinkedIn about people like Enes here, just saying hi, hi Enes, or Claudia clapping,
Hey, hi Claudia.
or just putting some fire on. So that's good.
Ciao Giovanna.
And if people want to reach out to you, what is the best place?
The best place is LinkedIn for sure. You can find me on LinkedIn, and it's Ivano Stella. And yeah, you can talk to me and shoot me a message, and we can talk about whatever you want, your projects, my projects, your co-livings, and so on.
And you were saying you will announce soon about the second experience. When would that be?
How funny, you want to know too much. But yeah, for sure, in this by the
The
end of this
announcement.
month, by the end of
By
this
the end
month,
of
for
this month?
sure, I
Okay,
will
we'll
have
keep in
something.
touch by the end of this month and know more about it. Well, thank you so much, Ivano, for sharing your story and your deep dive into co-living and co-working and digital nomading. Or that it was fantastic.
Thanks to you for having me, Fanny, and see you soon.
Yeah, see you soon. Bye.